Gamers! Okay, so there's been a little bit of a rumbling about ArenaNet not talking about elite specs a little bit more. We're getting teased until next week, but I do actually have a little bit of hope for all of you. I believe that we are able to deduce the information. Maybe ArenaNet planned this, so we have enough brain cells between us here on Twitch chat and YouTube to actually figure out where everything is supposed to be. So here we are back on completelytrash.com for the X-Pack bingo. And I'm going to go over where I think everything is going to end up. So maybe if you're like, why didn't they show my elite spec? Maybe I can get your speculation brain going. I can get you a little bit excited for what's going to be teased over the next couple of weeks with the elite specialization. So let's go ahead and get into it. So Bard is locked in Mesmer. This is absolutely known. I'll talk a little bit about afterwards, after you've kind of got everything placed. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about what mechanics I think some of these classes could have too, and a bit of speculation on that. But anyway, with Mesmer, we know it's locked in, right? They've shown Bard. Look, it's Mesmery, it's purple, boom, Bard. We know that. Same with Necro and Paragon, actually. We know that Warrior is Paragon, very clearly, from this concept art that was shown in the kind of the Future of Guild Wars 2 blog post. You can see that. It's yellow, it's gold, you've got the wings, you've got the spear. It's a Lonin style Sun Spear. It's Paragon. It's using like Guild Wars 1 style Paragon armor. Okay, bro doesn't skip leg day. Love to see that. Same with Necro Ritualist, just something that's a little ritual spirit from Cantha. Got the Ritualist outfit on, like how more obvious can you get, right? These two are locked in. Now, in a twist of fate, they also locked in Ranger and Elementalist recently. So Ranger was a bit up in the air, but they've now shown that it's Birdmancer, Pigeon Lord, is being added to the game, like, you know, kind of seagull wizard. So, you know, someone's eating like fish and chips on the beach, you got a sandwich, send your seagull in, boom, grabs it. Okay, immediately feasts on that. Or, you know, picks up something, can bring it back to you. You know, I've heard that, you know, you can even use them. You can have like a bird, it's got a USB stick, transfers data. You can use it as like a network protocol. Very impressive stuff. But yeah, there you go. Bird wizard is there. And that actually is enough to confirm. I've kind of got ahead of myself here. The reason why I think this is Bird Wizard is because we know that Ellie isn't the bow. Like, I was thinking Ellie could maybe be the bow. They're giving some kind of, like, elemental arrow spec. We know that's not the case now, because they showed that Elementalist is, in fact, getting Firefox, okay, as the thing. It will be like an elemental little sprite following you around and doing your bidding in some way. So we actually know that this one, that I thought was Ranger, is going to be Elementalist, almost certainly, at this stage. So that then means that the bow can't really go anywhere else, to be honest. It could be Guardian potentially. It's Guardian or Ranger now, but then, like, what would be Ranger, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's why the bow, I think, is going to end up going there. And it's kind of like a similar story for the others. We have seen maybe Thief. This could be a mastery, by the way. Like, don't get too baited by this, but I think it's probably the Thief elite spec. It's going to have some kind of, like, you know, you can summon a script to, like, dig treasure up for you, like a treasure hunting, kind of gunslinger, cowboy style Thief. Seems kind of cool, actually. With this, like, I don't know, something weird going on there, but yeah, so I think this is definitely going to be the Thief, pretty obviously, at this stage. Then you've got 3 left over. I actually do feel this is the only one that can possibly make any sense on Rev. It kind of has that Revenant aesthetic there, with that one, and then, of course, we have this one, then, therefore, has to be NG, and this has to be Guard, like, kind of as initially suspected. So this is where I think we're at. For elite specializations, very clearly. Well, I think it's pretty obvious. Like, we'll obviously get the confirmation over the next couple of weeks, but that's where I think we're at with these. We're going to have Paragon, very unknown. Like, the shield's not giving anything away. Oh, just to actually talk about that, we do have an image of the Guardian here. This is it. It looks like maybe almost similar to the Elementalist. You're going to have this lantern following you around. Kind of cool to see that the Guardian's kind of got a darker style to it. It might be kind of moving away from that Paladin and kind of like channeling some slightly kind of ghostly forces, almost kind of reminiscent of, you know, the kind of Ascalon stuff, right? Like, you've got some faux fire going on there too as well. Pretty exciting. Now, there is a slight chart. Yeah, kind of like an Oathbreaker thing. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Yeah, almost a bit Death Knight, right? Looks really cool, I think. I like that they chose the default sword skin, by the way. It's pretty based. There's like a 1% chance this is like one of the legendaries from the expansion, but I think it's called like Guardian.jpg. This is definitely the elite spec in my opinion, but look, I've got to give myself a little bit of insurance there. So that's what's going on with that. So kind of like an Oathbreaker thing. It's very possible that you have like an extra button and you can use this. You're going to have different virtues, obviously. And I imagine that this thing, you can maybe like project it out, or you can like use it to channel something around you, right? And it's going to have some kind of effect on the battlefield as well. And kind of as a general point to talk about these elite specs before we kind of do a bit of speculation on them individually, I think that these are going to be versatile, right? Because I imagine if you're a warrior main, maybe you're actually a little bit worried, like, oh, dude, I don't really want to play like a support warrior, like Paragon kind of a support spec kind of thing, and you're thinking like, oh, dude, a support warrior? Dude, me smash, me hit things with hammer, right? Nobody panic. Because this is like a really key expansion feature, and definitely because I think these specs are going to want to work in multiple game modes, with multiple playstyles, I'm very confident that all of these are going to be pretty diverse. I'm expecting them to have boon options. Not all of them necessarily, but definitely some of them to have boon options, particularly on builds that are on the weaker end. So, like, I wouldn't be surprised if Paragon had Alacrity, for example, because, like, Alac Bladesworn, heal Alac Bladesworn in particular is like, oof, yeesh, that ain't good, right? So you get the gist there, right? They'll probably, like, shore up kind of gaps in professions, and I think they're very likely to at least have support options on builds that don't really have proper support specs. Again, I think Warrior is really notable for this, because Heal Berserker does exist, but it doesn't really have a proper support spec. In a way. And I'm definitely expecting to see some kind of like support component on Necro as well, because Scourge is a support, but it's weird, right? And you can see it's weird because of what they had to do with transfusion to kind of make that kind of stuff work. So I'm expecting versatility. So whatever your playstyle, you like to play DPS, tank, like healer, whatever, power condi. These are almost certainly going to have quite a lot going on within them, especially because, again, there's no weapon being brought in, so these elite specs are going to hit hard. They're going to want to really enable any kind of playstyle that you want. But to kind of get into what I think mechanically is going to be going on here, what's interesting about Mesmer, by the way, this is super cool. There's actually imagery of... and video, well, there's some images of the Mesmer playing multiple instruments. So we obviously have this image here, right, of the character kind of playing a lute. But we also, a little bit later on, we have some flute gaming. There you go. So I'm kind of thinking this could be a bit of a Firebrand angle. Like, they could either add kits and you can like pick what musical instruments you want, but man, that would seem like really cooked. That's possible for sure. And you can you can pick you can have like 5 instruments and like have them all. But I'm thinking maybe they would put them on the profession mechanic instead, so you're not like locked into utility skills to kind of be a bard, because otherwise that would be maybe a little bit weird, right? You could technically play the build with no instruments, but it's definitely an approach they could actually take to go for kits. That would introduce a lot of skills into the game. But again, they could also have it on the profession mechanic like Firebrand. So, maybe you always have access to these instruments, and it kind of like forsakes the clone mechanic away, or maybe you need clones somehow to play the instruments, or kind of like empower the instruments in some kind of, mesmery way to kind of make that happen there. So that could be pretty interesting. With the way that's going to go. Again, I think we're going to see, there's obviously going to be a support element there for sure, but I think we could see some more aggressive stuff in there as well. They could also have shouts as well. That's kind of funny, right? Maybe you've got, they're adding Mesmer shouts to the game. It's kind of like singing, right? And then you also have like the instrument mechanic attached to the profession thing. The Ellie one is really interesting to talk about, in my opinion, because the Ellie one, and I think the same for the Guardian too, these are a little bit difficult to predict in terms of how they could actually end up working mechanically. And they're really not giving a lot away here. We can just see it kind of like leaping around here. We see the little fox, kind of lunging through the air. I don't think, okay, some people might be disappointed by this. I don't think we're seeing a full pet class here. And you can kind of see that. It looks more like a function gyro. The Guardian feels like that as well. If we go to the, the static shot of the characters, where okay, we go back here a little bit when they just start to show up. It's not. They're here, right? It's kind of floating next to them like a function gyro, not like a full pet. And I think that's the same for the Guardian as well. It looks like these are kind of intangible elements that you're going to interact with, but you're not necessarily going to have like direct control over, like say Mechanist. It's possible that they are pretty interactive, but I don't think we've got like separate entity. It doesn't look that way anyway, that's for sure. At least for now. So that's where I think we're going to be at with Elementals. Again, it's going to have different elemental forms. I think it will very likely have a different model, which is going to be really cool. It'll be like a different sprite for each of the elements, which I think is going to be really, really exciting. And that one is like really interesting, like how that one's going to go, what that's going to look like mechanically. It's going to be I think it's going to be ranged. I really think it's going to be a ranged approach because Ellie doesn't really have a ranged elite spec. Catalyst, kinda. Right? Tempest obviously is melee. And Weaver is obviously versatile, right? You can, there's no range limitation on Weaver. But I feel like we're going to get like a range component here. And you're going to be able to kind of like send it out to do your bidding. It can, give you bonus effects, right? Like you can combo with it, right? All that kind of cool stuff. And there's going to be this interplay where you can probably, I imagine what they might do is you can almost like make them interact somehow. So maybe they linger when you swap elements and you can kind of like combine them in some way. Will be pretty cool, I think. To go that direction. And again, I'm really curious if they do give it kind of a support element as well, because of course Ellie already has Tempest and Catalyst that work for that. So this might be one of the specs that actually just gets to have like a lot of diversity in terms of how it actually approaches doing damage, right? And maybe has some boon application in there as well. So it has that kind of like that value there. I think there's going to be a lot of boons on all of these because the current skills design is really recognized that the Guild Wars 2 combat system is like run on boons pretty much. So having boons is almost like it's mandated at this stage. I'm not going to lie, guys. It's you're going to have to get it done. In terms of Ritualist, okay, this is pure copium, but I'm really hoping we actually do get some like really interesting party effects. So you can like summon a spirit to attack, but you can also summon a spirit that like empowers your allies. And they lean into Ritualist, right? Like Ritualist can, we were talking about this the other day, right? You can empower someone's weapon to make them block, right? You can sacrifice health to heal someone, but then Necromancer orders in Guild Wars 1, you can sacrifice health to empower your entire team. We're getting this kind of like sacrificial ritual theme from this, right? The spirits are coming up to like empower allies or defend them in some way. I think that's really, really exciting, to be honest, because I think that Necro could really use something like that, kind of really tapping into that Guild Wars 1 Necromancer stuff and that Guild Wars 1 Ritualist stuff. I think could work really, really well and be a super cool role play for a lot of kind of Necro enjoyers there. Yeah, a little bit like Renegade on the Necro, a little bit of Renegade in there, but also a little bit of Guild Wars 1 influence, right? And you can really kind of have this ability to give people little special effects that can do something and have this almost like offensive support approach, like a little bit similar to Scourge in a sense, but Scourge kind of leans a bit more on the defensive side, right? And this could be more like offensive, like giving, kind of empowering allies with like special effects and so on. And, of course, like having these powerful spirits to get some stuff done, right? The bird one, look, okay, we're memeing about the bird one with the Ranger, but this one... what is going on here? Like, this looks like a meme to me. Like, this looks like an April Fool's joke, but honestly, in a good way, right? Like, you can see this Ranger is kind of, they're pointing, the birds are going in, they're swooping around. You've got this kind of blaze of light as the birds are catapulted towards the opponent. Now, notice this. We are having a pet. The pet is still here, right? The pet exists. And that means it's not replacing the mechanic entirely. It's going to be something else that interacts with it or gives you different abilities. I have to say I'm a little bit lost in how this one's going to go, but it's going to be very avian themed by the looks of it. And it's going to, be summoning the powers of the wild and hurling at them. So I think it's going to be like almost like a Beast Mastery theme. So like Minion Monster, but not, right? So you're going to summon wild beasts to hurl at your opponents, right? Like maybe we're seeing birds here, but maybe you can summon like a raptor and it like lunges at them, right? So kind of like a summoner archetype is what I'm kind of getting from this. And, you have the ability to call many beasts to your side at once. Kind of the answer to having like multi-pet, because adding multi-pet directly will be cooked. Let me tell you that. One pet, look guys, that's enough. But I can definitely imagine them kind of giving you the summoner style ability. So it's basically still casting spells at the end of the day, but it has this role play of like these entities being like hurled at your opponents. They kind of charge in. You're like a Lord of the Beasts. Yeah, exactly. Kind of like the Rexar thing from WoW, right? Or kind of like these summoner style classes, right? So that's what I'm getting from this one. To be honest. So I think people are going to like that because people do really like the pets, obviously, in Guild Wars 2. I think this is going to really lean into that, being a Beast Master for Visions of Eternity, I think. It should be pretty cool. So in terms of the Warrior one, I mean, look, do I need to go over it? Guys, it's Paragon. I don't know. It's pretty obvious, no? You're going to shout at people. You're going to look very menacing. You're going to probably look a bit like The Rock. And you're going to have wings. I don't know what to tell you. It's going to be buffs. It's going to be boons. And you're going to be, like, getting angry, getting really mad. And he doesn't look happy, does he? Right? He looks a bit pissed. But yeah, in Guild Wars 1, Paragon was all about empowering allies, but with powerful spear attacks as well. You had shout effects. Another new type of spell they could add is like a refreshing shout. They'd have to do unique buffs for this. I'm not sure if they'd want to go that direction, but honestly, maybe they'll really go hard on these elite specs and just throw that in there. It was basically like a leadership class, right? Powerful support. Usually was relegated to basically like spamming buffs in Guild Wars 1. It was absolutely broken, by the way. It's unbelievably busted right now. You can basically make your entire team invulnerable, and now you can give them all crazy stats. So they do giga damage and giga healing, all that kind of wonderful stuff. It's like kind of like a key backbone of a lot of really powerful meta comps in the game. But yeah, it's about shouts, inspiring allies, leading your team into battle, and kind of channeling some kind of angelic forces to support allies. You could heal, you could give extra damage, you could, make your allies run faster or stand their ground and be more defensive. Like really versatile type of character in the game. And I think we're going to be seeing that very much in Guild Wars 2. Like, this is going to be a support class. Like, Heal Warrior is going to be a thing. If you wanted to play Heal Warrior and it's like, Berserker's a bit cooked, because it is, right? And Spellbreaker and Bladesworn, look, Heal Warrior fans, good news. You are getting it 1 billion%. But DPS lords, don't worry, it will do damage as well. They're going to have some trait support and utility support for players who are going to want to do damage. I guarantee it. They're going to want to pump at the same time. So I'd be really surprised if there wasn't that support in there as well for this type of thing. What type of skills could they get? I actually think they might give them a new one, a new type of ability, I think. Maybe looking at basically echoes from Guild Wars 1. And chants from Guild Wars 1, I think, is what we're going to see. It's going to be like kind of thematic. It'll be probably somewhat thematically similar to shouts, but they'll like interact with each other. A little bit like how Renegade does now, I think, is probably how it's going to go. But again, that's like wild speculation. I think ArenaNet's pretty unpredictable on this. I don't think we actually know for sure the way they're going to go with all of these. The other 4 we don't know so much about, because we haven't really seen. Again, the only thing we've seen of the Thief is like him digging up the script, and that gives us a bit of an idea of the theme here, I think. My grandma said you're cute. Grandma's got good taste, okay? That's staying in the video. But anyway, it might be kind of like almost like a treasure hunter thief, kind of soldier of fortune kind of thing. Like you're out there in the wild. You've got your cowboy hat on, right? You've got a script digging for treasure. You're rolling the dice. Drawing the cards, right? That's actually really cool RP, I think. So I'm very interested to see how this one goes. I haven't got a lot of what this is going to be. This one's actually pretty unpredictable. I'm going to let you guys kind of speculate on that one. I think they won't keep it super RNG like Trig and the skills team. I don't think they're a big fan of like Giga RNG, and I know a lot of Guild Wars 2 players aren't. So I think it will probably be like deterministic in some way. But yeah, it's going to have this kind of game of chance to it, like drawing cards in some way. Really lean into that. It's going to be pretty cool. That's for sure. The engineer one we know nothing about. I've got nothing, guys. We know that it's probably going to be kind of like Quicksilver, right? It's going to be really going for this eternal alchemy kind of thing going on there, right? Almost like the Juggernaut legendary weapon. I got no idea, to be honest. I think it's going to be really all about this kind of delving into that kind of almost like sci-fi element that Guild Wars 2 has, like the tech, right? It's going to be like mega NG, right? Like really leaning to the technological aspect of it, like the veil between magic and science that a lot of these fantasy games have. I think that's where we're going with Engineer, right? 100%, right? Kind of like metallurgist, right? You're going to be able to be constructing all sorts of like weird contraptions or doing like weird alchemical experiments and, using that to kind of do that kind of stuff. Yeah, kind of Inquest adjacent there as well. The Guardian one is really nice. We talked about this before, actually, so we don't need to go over it again. But yeah, I think it's going to be kind of like Oathbreaker is what someone said as a name. Yeah, exactly. Kind of like Dark Paladin, Death Knight, That's what this looks like. That's what this is evoking. So that's going to be pretty cool. So we might almost see like, you know, the opposite of virtues, kind of like the inverse of the virtues rather than, you know, vices essentially, right? They probably wouldn't call it that, but you know, you got the idea, right? It's going to be the Dark Paladin, the Dark Knight. What would you sacrifice for power? I sacrificed everything. That's what this guy says. That's for sure. And yeah, you're gonna have this kind of brazier, this torch following you around, and it will probably do stuff. So kind of, you know, maybe a little bit similar to how the Ellie one worked, or kind of, you know, it's gonna have that similar kind of function gyro style effect maybe. This little entity that chases you around all the time. So that one's pretty cool. And then the final one is the Rev one. Now this one is super unpredictable. Like I've had a couple of theories about this. The first of which is that it's actually. My best theory is Cryptus, actually. You're gonna channel a Cryptus. Because it could be like, you know, Bonfaz Burnt Fuck, because it kind of looks like a claw holding a flame, right? So it's kind of like from the searing, super edgy. But we've already got a Char, right? We've had Kala. But I'm thinking Cryptus. This was suggested to me, and it does look a little bit kind of like that demonic edge. So maybe there's gonna be a legendary Cryptus warrior that Revenants are gonna be channeling. Because they talked that, they did say something that kind of made me think this as well. They said that the elite specs are kind of inspired by people that we've met, right? You know, we're learning some new tricks from people we found. So maybe you learn from the Cryptus, right? How to channel something. But to be honest, I've got absolutely no idea where we're going, honestly, with the Revenant one. I actually don't have any kind of speculation with what type of gameplay that's going to introduce. You're obviously going to get a new legend with new utility skills, and they'll have to do. Rev is actually the hardest one to do in Elite Spec, I think, actually, because you know, you're locked into utility skills, right? So the traits and the profession mechanic have to do a bit of heavy lifting here, in my opinion. So I'd expect a couple of fireworks, I think, with what they do with the profession mechanic. I'd expect this one to be pretty impactful, because again, Rev, it does lock you to those utility skills when you pick them, so it almost has like a little bit less flexibility to an extent with how the build craft works. So yeah, I'm thinking something from Soto is coming back there with Rev. But anyway, that is my ideas for not only what things are going to be, now that we know. I was definitely off on some breaks. I was really coped. I was like, what, the shield Ellie? Bow Ellie? Dude, look, I had you, Ellie mains, I had your back. I know you guys want bow. I was coped for you guys, okay? But look, I'm sure you guys like having a little fox as well, so we can't complain. But anyway, that's going to do it for me. Hopefully that's got you a bit coped up. I know some people are feeling a bit down about the elite specializations and not being revealed. Of course, they're all getting teased. We'll find out exactly how right these guesses are and some of the speculation in the coming weeks. So yeah, let me know your thoughts. Give me your speculation. Which one are you hyped up to play? Okay, and of course, stay tuned for more Visions of Eternity content here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching. Follow, subscribe, comment, like, watch on Twitch, watch on YouTube, buy game with a referral link, links being spammed everywhere. That's all for me, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.